The silent cry. The Keltharian mining colony floated in the darkness of space like a string of pearls. 7 habitation domes connected by transparent tunnels clung to the largest asteroid in Systema 7, their soft blue lights reflecting off the rocky surface. Inside, 3,000 souls worked peacefully, extracting rare minerals that would power Commonwealth stations across 12 sectors. Colony Director Valen moved through the central hub with graceful steps, his silver skin shimmering under the artificial lights. The Keltharians were a tall species, standing nearly 7 feet, with elongated limbs and delicate features that spoke of evolution on a low-gravity world. Their home planet, Kelthara, knew no predators, no wars, and no natural disasters beyond gentle rains. Like most Commonwealth species, they had reached the stars through curiosity rather than necessity. Valen paused at the observation window, admiring the work crews outside. Keltharians in environmental suits floated between asteroids, their mining lasers casting brief flashes of light as they cut into ancient rock. Everything was proceeding smoothly. The quota would be met ahead of schedule, and the Commonwealth representatives would be pleased. His communication implant chimed softly. Valen touched the spot behind his ear where the device nestled beneath his skin. Director Valen, this is Survey Station 3. We have detected unusual signatures at the edge of the asteroid field. Valen frowned slightly. What kind of signatures? Unknown vessel configurations. The patterns do not match any Commonwealth registry. They are approaching rapidly from the outer system. Valen felt a small flutter of concern. In 300 years of Commonwealth expansion, first contact situations always followed peaceful protocols. Yet something about this felt different. Send standard greetings on all frequencies. Notify me immediately if they respond. He moved to the central control station where his assistant, Nira, monitored the colony operations. Her silver skin had paled slightly, a sign of worry among their kind. Director, the unknown vessels are not responding to our greetings. Their trajectory suggests they are heading directly toward our colony. Show me, Valen requested. The main display activated, showing 7 angular ships moving through the asteroid field. Unlike the smooth, elegant designs of Commonwealth vessels, these craft were jagged and asymmetrical. Dark plating covered their hulls and strange symbols were painted across their surfaces. Most disturbing were the obvious weapon ports along their sides, dozens of them. Valen had never seen weapons on such a scale. The Commonwealth maintained a small peacekeeping force, but their ships carried only defensive shields and non-lethal deterrents. These vessels were built for a different purpose entirely. The ships are launching smaller craft, Nira reported, her voice trembling. They are heading toward our mining teams and outer stations. Recall all personnel immediately, Valen ordered. Seal the habitat domes and activate emergency protocols. Across the colony, alarms sounded for the first time in its 5-year existence. Workers abandoned their stations and rushed toward the safety of the central habitats. But they moved too slowly, unpracticed in emergency responses because they had never needed them before. The smaller craft reached the outer mining stations first. Valen watched helplessly on the monitors as armored figures forced their way through airlocks. The creatures inside were unlike anything in Commonwealth records. They stood shorter than Keltharians but were massively built, with thick gray skin covered in natural armor plates. Their faces showed rows of sharp teeth, and their eyes gleamed with predatory intelligence. Director, the outer stations report borders. They are taking our people, Nira said, her silver skin now completely white with fear. Valen made a decision that went against every instinct his peaceful species possessed. Send a distress call to Commonwealth Central. Full emergency priority. Include all sensor data on these attackers. Nira worked frantically at her console. Signal prepared. But Director, Commonwealth Central is 40 light-years away. Even at maximum speed, help would not arrive for days. Send it anyway, Valen insisted. The distress signal broadcast into space, carrying with it the colony's coordinates, visual data of the attackers, and a desperate plea for assistance. It traveled outward in all directions, seeking any Commonwealth vessel that might respond. But something unexpected happened. The signal passed through a naturally occurring subspace anomaly at the system's edge, a rare phenomenon that acted like a lens, bending and redirecting electromagnetic waves. The distress call, meant for Commonwealth space, was instead amplified and redirected toward a region that all peaceful species avoided. The forbidden boundary. For centuries, the Commonwealth had maintained a strict quarantine around an entire sector of the galaxy. Long-range scans had detected worlds there that defied imagination. Planets with crushing gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures and constant natural disasters. According to Commonwealth philosophy, any intelligence arising from such harsh environments would inevitably be violent, aggressive, and dangerous. The boundary was established to protect the peaceful species of the galaxy from whatever nightmares might eventually emerge from those death worlds. The Keltharians knew the stories. Children were told cautionary tales about the theoretical Deathworlders, beings forged in endless conflict with their environment and each other. The Commonwealth's greatest fear was that such species might one day reach the stars and bring their violent nature with them. Now, Valen's distress call was heading directly into that forbidden zone. On the colony, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The raiders, who called themselves the Razak Dominion, moved through the habitats with brutal efficiency. They wore no environmental suits, their thick hides apparently capable of withstanding vacuum for short periods. Their weapons were crude but effective, firing solid projectiles that could punch through Keltharian bodies with ease. Director Valen stood in the central hub, surrounded by terrified colonists. The Razak had not yet breached the main dome, but it was only a matter of time. Through the windows he could see their assault craft attached to the outer structures like parasites. "We must surrender," Nero whispered. "Perhaps if we cooperate they will spare us." Valen wanted to believe that, but something in the way the Razak moved, the casual cruelty they displayed, suggested otherwise. These were not conquerors interested in negotiation. They were predators and the Keltharians were prey. A massive impact shook the dome. The Razak were cutting through the main airlock with plasma torches. Valen gathered the colonists, trying to keep them calm despite his own terror. They huddled together, silver-skinned beings who had never known violence, facing creatures born to it. The airlock exploded inward. Razak warriors poured through, their weapons raised. The leader, larger than the rest with deep scars across his armored hide, stepped forward. His translator device crackled to life. "You are now property of the Razak Dominion," the leader announced. "Cooperate and you will be sold as workers. Resist and you will be sold as parts. Choose wisely." Valen felt his heart sink. The Commonwealth had no concept of slavery. It was a crime so ancient that most species had forgotten it ever existed. But here it was, in terrifying reality. "Please," Valen said, stepping forward. "We have sent a distress call. Others will come. If you leave now, no harm will come to you." The Razak leader laughed, a harsh sound like grinding stone. "Your Commonwealth is toothless. We have raided 17 of their colonies. No one ever fights back." He gestured to his warriors. "Begin loading the cargo." As the Razak began herding colonists toward their ships, Valen's communication implant chimed. Despite the chaos, he touched the device. "Unknown signal detected," came an automated message from the colony's communication array. "Source: beyond the forbidden boundary." Message reads: "Distress call received. Coordinates confirmed. Terran coalition responding. Hold your position. Help is coming." Valen's blood ran cold. The Terran coalition. A name from beyond the boundary. A response from the Death Worlds. He did not know whether to feel relief or even greater terror. The Razak leader noticed Valen's expression. "What troubles you, slave?" Valen looked at the creature, then at his people being dragged away. He made a choice. "I received a response to our distress call. Others are coming." The Razak leader's scarred face twisted into a sneer. "More Commonwealth weaklings? Let them come. We will add them to our cargo." "Not Commonwealth," Valen said quietly. "Deathworlders." For the first time, the Razak leader's expression showed something other than confidence. It showed doubt. Then fear. Even the brutal Razak had heard the legends of what might exist beyond the boundary. In the depths of space beyond the forbidden boundary, ancient engines stirred to life. Ships that had fought in wars the peaceful Commonwealth could not imagine began their journey. The humans were coming, and they were bringing with them weapons forged in Earth's violent history and a moral code that valued one thing above all else: the protection of the innocent. The Keltharians did not know it yet, but they were about to discover that Deathworlders were not the monsters they had been taught to fear. Sometimes, monsters were exactly what you needed when facing true evil. The colony waited in darkness, caught between the brutality of the Razak and the unknown terror approaching from beyond the boundary. Valen could only hope that the help coming would be better than the nightmare they currently faced. But hope, he was learning, sometimes came from the most unexpected places. The Deathworld answer. The Razak leader, Warlord Kreb, stood on the bridge of his command vessel, the Bone Crusher. His scarred hands gripped the railing as he watched his warriors load Keltharian prisoners into cargo holds. This raid had been profitable beyond expectations. The gentle silver-skinned beings offered no resistance, their bodies perfectly suited for labor in the slave markets of the outer territories. Warlord, his sensor officer called out. I am detecting gravitational anomalies at the system perimeter. Krebs barely glanced at the display. More Commonwealth ships coming to negotiate. They always come too late. He had raided Commonwealth colonies for 15 years without facing real opposition. Their peacekeeping forces carried no weapons, only diplomatic protocols and stern warnings that meant nothing to the Razak. These signatures are different, the sensor officer insisted, his voice rising with concern. The energy output is massive. I count 6 vessels emerging from faster-than-light travel. Show me, Krebs ordered. The main view screen activated, and what Krebs saw made his blood run cold. 6 ships materialized at the edge of the asteroid field, and they were unlike anything he had encountered before. These vessels were enormous, easily twice the size of his largest cruiser. Their hulls were dark gray, almost black, covered with armor plating that showed the scars of countless battles. Unlike the smooth, elegant Commonwealth ships, these craft were angular and brutal in design. But what truly terrified Krebs were the weapons. Hundreds of them. Missile tubes, railguns, energy cannons, and weapon systems he could not even identify. These ships were not built for exploration or trade. They were built for one purpose only: war. Warlord, the communication officer spoke with trembling voice. We are being hailed. The message is in our language. On screen, Krebs commanded. A face appeared that made Krebs take an involuntary step backward. The being had no natural armor, no scales or protective hide. Its skin was exposed and vulnerable, colored in shades of brown. Hair covered the top of its head and face, and its eyes were positioned forward like a predator. But it was the expression that unsettled Krebs most. Cold. Calculated. Completely devoid of fear. This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chin of the Terran Coalition 5th Fleet, the being said, its voice carrying absolute authority. You are currently engaged in hostile actions against the civilian population. You have 30 seconds to release all prisoners and power down your weapons, or we will consider you an active threat and respond accordingly. Krebs found his voice. I am Warlord Krebs of the Razak Dominion. These are our prizes taken by right of conquest. You have no authority here, human. The being called Chin did not blink. 20 seconds. Krebs' pride overrode his instinct for survival. He turned to his weapons officer. Target their flagship. Full salvo. Show these Deathworlders what happens when they interfere with the Razak. The Bone Crusher fired every weapon it possessed. Plasma bolts, kinetic missiles, and energy beams converged on the human flagship. The attack was powerful enough to reduce a Commonwealth vessel to debris. Krebs watched with satisfaction as his weapons struck their target. Then his satisfaction turned to ash. The human ship's shields flared brilliant blue, absorbing the entire assault without apparent damage. When the light faded, the vessel remained completely intact, not even a scorch mark on its armored hull. That was your warning, Admiral Chin said calmly. This is our response. What followed was not a battle. It was an execution. The human ships moved with frightening coordination, their movements precise and practiced. They did not fire wildly or waste ammunition. Each shot was calculated, targeted, and devastatingly effective. Railguns fired projectiles at incredible velocities, punching through Razak shields and armor like they were paper. Missiles launched in coordinated waves, overwhelming point defense systems before detonating against engines and weapon systems. Krebs watched in horror as 3 of his support vessels exploded in rapid succession. 2 more went dark, their systems completely disabled by electromagnetic pulses. His own ship shuddered as impact struck the engine section. Evasive maneuvers, Krebs shouted. Return fire. We cannot target them, Warlord, his weapons officer replied, panic clear in his voice. They are jamming our targeting systems. Every time we lock on, they redirect our sensors. The humans fought with a sophistication that spoke of centuries of warfare. They used electronic countermeasures, coordinated fire patterns, and tactical maneuvers that the Razak, despite their brutality, had never encountered. This was not the violence of savages. This was the refined art of war practiced by a species that had mastered it. Warlord, we have lost engine power, engineering reported. Weapons are offline. Life support is failing. Krebs stared at the view screen in disbelief. In less than 3 minutes, his entire fleet had been neutralized. Not destroyed completely but rendered helpless. The humans had demonstrated they could kill him whenever they chose. They simply had not done so yet. Razak vessels, Admiral Chen's voice came through again. Your ships are disabled. Your weapons are offline. You will now release all prisoners immediately. Any further aggression will result in the complete destruction of your fleet. You have 60 seconds to comply. Kreb had never surrendered in his life. The Razik did not surrender. But as he looked at the human warships surrounding his disabled fleet, he understood something fundamental. These were not Commonwealth weaklings who valued all life equally. These were predators who had decided his people were not worth killing yet. That could change in an instant. Release the prisoners, Kreb whispered. Warlord, his second-in-command, protested. Release them now, Kreb roared. All of them. On the Keltharian colony, Director Valen watched through the observation window as something remarkable happened. The Razik warriors who had been loading prisoners onto their ships suddenly stopped. They received orders through their communication devices, and then, to Valen's amazement, they began releasing the captives. What is happening? Nira asked, her silver skin slowly returning to its normal color. I do not know, Valen admitted. But something has changed. Through the transparent dome they could see the human ships in the distance. Dark, powerful, and absolutely terrifying. Yet they had not fired on the colony. They had not demanded tribute or territory. They had simply come, fought, and freed the prisoners. Director Valen, a human voice came through the colony communication system. This is Admiral Chin of the Terran Coalition. Are you and your people safe? Valen activated the response channel with shaking hands. Yes, Admiral. Thanks to you we are safe. But I do not understand. Why did you come? We are strangers to you. There was a brief pause before Chin responded. We received your distress call. On Earth, we have a code that has been followed for thousands of years. When someone calls for help, you answer. It does not matter if they are friend or stranger. Life has value, and those who prey on the innocent must be stopped. Valen felt something he had never experienced before. Not fear, not relief, but profound respect for these beings from beyond the boundary. But you are from the Death Worlds. We were taught that species from such harsh environments would be violent and dangerous. We are dangerous, Chin replied honestly. Earth taught us to fight, to survive, to overcome impossible odds. But it also taught us something else. It taught us to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We are dangerous, Director Valen, but only to those who would harm others. Over the next several hours, human shuttles arrived at the colony. Valen watched nervously as the first one docked. The airlock opened and several humans emerged. They wore dark uniforms with strange insignia and carried weapons at their sides. But their movements were careful, non-threatening. The lead human removed her helmet, revealing features similar to Admiral Chen. Director Valen, I am Commander Lisa Torres. We have medical personnel with us. May we assist your injured? Valen nodded quickly. Yes, please. We have many who need help. The human medical team moved with practiced efficiency. They carried equipment that seemed far more advanced than Commonwealth technology. What amazed Valen most was their gentleness. These beings who had just destroyed a pirate fleet with ruthless efficiency now treated injured Keltharians with infinite care and patience. One of the medical officers, a human male with dark skin and kind eyes, knelt beside a young Keltharian who had been injured during the raid. The child was frightened, pulling away from the strange alien. It is okay, the human said softly, his translator rendering his words in perfect Keltharian. My name is Dr. Marcus Reed. I am here to help. See. He held up a small device. This will heal your injuries. It will not hurt at all. The child looked at Valen, who nodded encouragingly. Slowly, the young Keltharian allowed the human doctor to treat his wounds. Within moments, the injuries began to heal, and the child's fear transformed into wonder. You saved us, the child said to Dr. Reed. The human smiled warmly. That is what we do, little one. We protect those who need protection. Valen approached Commander Torres. I must ask, Commander. What will happen to the Razik? Torres' expression hardened slightly. They will face justice. We are escorting their disabled vessels to a neutral station where they will be tried for their crimes. The Terran Coalition has strict laws against slavery and piracy. They will spend the rest of their lives in confinement. Director Valen stood with Admiral Chen in the colony observation lounge. The human admiral had come aboard to discuss future relations between their peoples. Your Commonwealth will be afraid of us, Chen said quietly. They established the forbidden boundary because they feared what we might become. Valen could not deny this. Yes, they will be afraid. But perhaps that fear was based on misunderstanding. You could have ignored our distress call. You could have conquered us after defeating the Razik. Instead, you helped us and asked for nothing in return. Chin smiled slightly. Director Valen, humanity learned a hard lesson over thousands of years. Strength without compassion is tyranny. Compassion without strength is weakness. We seek the balance between the two. We have the power to destroy, but we choose to protect. That is what makes us human. What happens now? Valen asked. Now, Chin said, we hope that the Commonwealth will see us for what we truly are. Not monsters from the Death Worlds, but potential allies. The galaxy is vast and there are many threats like the Razik. Your people have wisdom and knowledge that we lack. We have strength and experience in conflict. Together we could build something better than either of us could alone. Valen looked out at the human warships, dark and powerful against the stars. For 300 years the Commonwealth had feared the Death Worlds. Now he understood that fear had been misplaced. The true danger was not the beings who had learned to fight. The true danger was those who preyed on the defenseless. The humans were not monsters. They were guardians. And the galaxy would never be the same again. As the human fleet prepared to escort the captured Razik vessels away, Valen sent a message to Commonwealth Central. It contained everything that had happened, along with his personal recommendation. The forbidden boundary should fall. Humanity should be welcomed, not feared. The Terran Coalition had answered an SOS from strangers and asked for nothing in return. They had demonstrated that Deathworlders could be the greatest allies the peaceful species of the galaxy had ever known. In the darkness of space, the veteran human warships began their journey home. Behind them they left a colony saved, prisoners freed, and the first bridge built between two very different civilizations. The Death Worlds had sent their answer to the galaxy's cry for help. And that answer was hope.